This is from a short story called Solar Window. It is science fiction. Think Blade Runner. The transmission that Ignat was dead came shortly after midnight. I was certain, once the initial flare of emotions quieted to a manageable level, that he had been murdered. This had been coming for years. My desire that the solar window would be completed without fret was not stronger than the force of history. Just moments later, Amon took over my train screen and began their speeches, as every train screen in the system must have been similarly taken. I was already collapsing and stuffing the chair I had been sitting on and holding. I continued to pack what else seemed necessary and unduplicable elsewhere, while listening to the drone of the Amon. They announced Ignat's death vaguely, perhaps as an accident. Most of the so-called information was useless to me, except that the Amon were quickly reestablishing their power. I turned off the train screen and packed it last, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Outside, a siren was wailing. My transporter zoomed past neon greens and blues, the lights of our city night. Sirens wailed all around, and the bursting sound of an explosion carried from several streets over. Riots were beginning. I shook my head, pressed my goggles more tightly against my quivering brow, and pressed harder on the accelerator. My head bent down. I felt the urge to press my face into the display, and let the transporter end up where it may. I imagined a quick collision, a momentary flip, and then the last crash before my consciousness was cut mercifully short. I reminded myself this was the idea of a weaker man, and entirely against what Ignat had been fighting for. What I had felt on these windy and distorted streets was like fighting alone. Stop. The flat directed, the voice of authority, carved in authority, came through the display. Sessuous drive, halt your transporter now. Amon would have stopped the transporter themselves. My device was not protected against their physio frequencies. It was not protected from their transmissions, unfortunately. Stop. We know your location. You are surrounded. Stop. Amon would say anything to end a threat as soon as possible. I would have to assume they were lying. And if they were not, I realized in that moment I was ready to face them to my death. Ignat was gone. If I was taken in, there would be no solar window.